Can I be honest with you right now? I am running on empty. We are talking the very last sliver of exhaust on the struggle bus this week. And nothing catastrophic has happened, nothing dramatic or worth a big announcement. It's just the reality of life in one of those periods of time or seasons where the calendar is very full and the energy reserves are very much not. So, to let you in on a little bit of life in the moment, the kids are home with me this week. It's their spring break, which sounds lovely in theory, and it genuinely is. Don't get me wrong. I love having time with them at home, but I'm also trying to work full time from my kitchen or from my little office nook while they are existing loudly in every room around me. And if you are listening to this while your own children are nearby and doing something chaotic or loud, hello, we probably understand each other very well in this moment. We just got back from a long weekend in Atlanta. And we did this because my husband had some work travel to do this entire week. So we decided to go to Atlanta for a long weekend and have some family time beforehand. We drove to Atlanta on a Friday afternoon, came home on a Monday afternoon. And I am not exaggerating when I tell you, I didn't even go inside the house for more than a minute. Once we pulled into the garage, I just walked in, grabbed the set of keys to our other car, and drove straight to the grocery store to start stocking up on things that we would need for the week. I was meal planning on the drive home and kind of jotting down my notes. So when we got home, I was ready to run. Stuart also went inside, did laundry, unpacked his bag, repacked his bag, and was out the door within 2 hours of us pulling in from Atlanta to head to the airport. And that was that. Here we are, spring break, just the four of us. So Atlanta is still fresh in my mind. This trip is still very much alive in my body. The good parts and the parts where, we hit a wall at 6 p.m. on night 2, and that happens. And I thought to myself, you know what? I think this would make for a good episode. There was one that I was planning on recording, but then after this weekend, I thought, no, this is the one. Because we've been taking family trips for over a decade now. 3 kids, a lot of hotels, a lot of restaurants, a lot of moments where I have genuinely asked myself, why are we doing this? Or where I have made some sort of verbal threat of, hey, if you don't start behaving right now, we are packing up and going home tomorrow. And then there are a lot of moments where I know we'll be telling stories about these trips for years. And I have learned some things, not things that make me an expert, just real things, real life moments, the kind you can only learn by actually doing it and doing it imperfectly, over and over again. So let's talk about that. I want to share with you my biggest takeaways and learnings from traveling with kids over the past decade. Cozy on in. I'm Julia Darling, and this is Home Cooked Stories, a podcast about food, but not really about food. It's about legacy, culture, memory, identity, and what it means to live well in the middle of a full, beautiful, and imperfect life. Because food is never just about the food. Cozy on in. I want to start here because I think if we don't answer this question first, everything else feels like logistics. And logistics, while necessary, in my opinion, are the least interesting part of any trip. So why do we keep planning these trips? Even when they're hard, even when they're expensive, even when you come home more tired than when you left. Have you ever said, oh my gosh, I need a vacation from my vacation once you get home? And here's what I've landed on after all these years. The reason why we plan these trips is because of the shared stories. It's the thing your family builds together that belongs only to you. The moment one of the kids says something so funny in the backseat of the car that you still quote and laugh about 3 years later. Or the gift shop in Maine where you let your kids pick out a few small Portland mementos and then do a double take when the total came out to be what it costs to order a takeout for a family of 5. I legitimately went back and asked the associate working at that store, I'm sorry, can you explain to me again how I spent this much money? Or how you had to take a bus and a cab ride to get to a specific tavern only to discover that they were closed for the winter season and the cab driver had already left you stranded. That was a true story that happened with my mom, my sister, and Stuart when we went to Vienna. And these aren't vacation highlights. They're not the things you put on a caption, but they are the texture of a family. They give you those inside jokes, the collective memory, the we were there together of it all. And I think about this through the lens of food quite a bit, naturally. I love showing my kids food through travel, not as a structured experience with a learning objective or a lesson, but just as a way to be somewhere, to make them notice and aware that, this town makes its pizza this way, and this town has this kind of gathering space, and this town has a special dessert it's known for. And sometimes that means they try new things like a savory crepe or a wilted kale and grilled cheese sandwich. And sometimes it means they get a burger at a cool outdoor food hall with music bingo happening next to them. Either way, they're somewhere real. They are experiencing something with a part of a different community. And they'll remember it, even if they can't say exactly why. Okay, here's the real stuff. A little over 10 years in, and here's what I have learned. Number 1, plan 1 or 2 anchored activities per day, then let the rest of your schedule breathe. Here's what I have found to be the sweet spot is 1 or 2 things a day, perhaps one in the morning and one in the afternoon that you are actually going to commit to. So these are the things that you're booking in advance or the tickets that you need to reserve or the place that you really want to see. And then you leave the rest of the day open. Maybe you have a few other things in mind of what you would like to do, and you have them loosely penciled in case you get to them. But you are there to play the rest by ear and just let the day naturally unfold and see what you and the rest of the group are in the mood for, because you never know. And here's something I've also found. The best moments on a family trip are almost always the unplanned ones. The things that you just naturally stumbled into because you were just out walking and something caught your eye, or something you added to the itinerary after you got there, not before. I'll tell you one real example that happened to us last year on a fall break trip to Virginia. We were staying in Stanton, Virginia, and traveling to Charlottesville for some activities. And we needed a place to go to dinner one evening. And there was a Thai restaurant kind of directly across from our Airbnb where we were staying. It wasn't on our list of places to go, but it was there. We love Thai food. We have yet to discover a good Thai restaurant in our neighborhood. And so we thought, you know what? We're going to give it a try and see how it goes. And it honestly is one of the things I still think about today. Because when we got there, that restaurant only had one other couple that was dining. Apparently, the crowd had already left within about 15 minutes of us arriving. And then that couple that was there with us left halfway through our meal. So at one point, the 5 of us had the restaurant to ourselves. And there were 2 adorable Thai women that were helping to serve us that evening. One was working the kitchen and bringing our meals out. We were dining family style. And the other was more or less the hostess and the owner of the restaurant. And what I loved that she did is that when it came time to pay, she didn't bring you the check. You went up to her as she was seated at the bar near the cash register, and she would use that opportunity to make small talk with you and to tell you about herself. She was over 80 years old. She spends her time between Stanton and they have a rice plantation in Thailand where her husband currently was. Her son helps her run the restaurant. The pictures in the restaurant are of her and her family and her granddaughter who recently got married to a lawyer and lives in DC, and all of these things. And she was so personable and had such a warm grandma energy and character about her. And I could have stayed there all night and just chatted with this woman who I wasn't even on a first name basis with. But if you ask my family what one of my favorite memories was of that trip to Virginia, they will tell you it was that Thai restaurant. Number 2, make time for something that you actually want to do. And this one took me a while to give myself permission for it. And I think especially when your kids are super young, it's a little bit harder to do. But as they get older, this trip is also for you. Now, it's not just your trip, right? It's not a girl's trip or a couple's trip or a weekend off that you're getting to have by yourself. They are family trips. And as I tell my kids when they're complaining of they don't want to do what their brother or sister's doing, or they don't want to go to this activity, I remind them, hey, this is a family trip, which means that everyone in the family should get to have at least one thing that they want to do on this vacation. And that includes you, the parent. You deserve to enjoy the trip as well, not just manage it. So I look for at least one thing per trip that I genuinely want to do. One thing I've noticed for me is that might be as simple as an independent bookstore. I love independent bookstores. And just 30 minutes in there browsing, reading the staff recommendations, or finding my next read, That 30 minutes just lights me up and gives the trip a different energy for the day. And maybe it's something that not everyone else wants to do, or you get a couple little, complaints and gruffles in there. But you know what? Everybody will get over it. And we are teaching our kids that, hey, mom and dad count too. We do things mostly for the kids and plan our trips around them and what they like and what we know they would want to do. They can compromise and give us some of that time as well. When we were at the aquarium in Atlanta this past weekend, there was a young girl in there. I'm guessing she was in her early 20s. And we were coming out of the dolphin show. And I don't know if she thought she was saying it under her breath, but she was actually quite loud about it. But she was complaining about how she couldn't stand the inefficiency of going to places with large groups of children and families. And I wanted to say, girl, bless your parents for doing the same with you when you were young and you don't get it. I mean, I was a little amused by the whole thing, but I thought, you know what? I understand you really don't get it until you're a parent. But here's the thing that I do really love about traveling with kids and experiencing a place through their eyes. They make you have fun and experience things in ways that you probably wouldn't if it was just an adult trip. Things like going to the dolphin show at the aquarium and wanting to sit in the super soak zone so that when the dolphins come and they splash you, and we left completely soaking wet. And I have to say, I don't remember when I have laughed harder or had a bigger smile on my face when we left. And that comes from having these experiences with your kids. Number 3, feed everyone strategically and do not be precious about it. Food is everything on a family trip, in my opinion. It can make or break a day. And I say this as someone who has watched an entire afternoon collapse because we waited too long to eat lunch or we didn't get breakfast in time. My son, bless him, he is just like his mom. We can get hangry. And the reason I know this is because we'll be like Sour Patch Kids. I am sour until that first sip of coffee, or he might be until that first bite of breakfast in the morning. And then afterwards, oh my gosh, we are pleasant, easy breezy. We're ready to go. The mood just shifts. And here's another thing that I have started to recognize more often. Don't be afraid to skip a meal when no one's hungry. There's no hard and fast rule that says you have to have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner when you're on a trip. You can also share plates. Stuart and I may order a handful of dishes for the table, and we'll all kind of just eat communal or family style. Or we'll let the kids order, and then if Stuart and I know we're not that hungry, we'll just pick off of their meals because we know they're not going to finish it all. Also, don't be afraid to accept that a food haul for lunch or dinner is not a consolation prize. It is often the best thing that you've got going for you because everybody gets to pick and choose what they want to eat, and nobody is unhappy. And if your hotel or your Airbnb has a fridge or a mini fridge in it, use it. There have been plenty of times where we have brought leftovers back with us. And in those moments where people need a snack, that really comes in handy. We had an evening, I think it was day 2 of this trip in Atlanta where, it was time for dinner. Nobody was really hungry. Nobody could agree on a restaurant, but we kind of forced it and we went out and we picked a place and we got in line to be seated by the hostess. And I'm not kidding you. It was maybe 10 or 15 minutes. No hostess in sight. Nobody came over to take down a name or to let us know how long the wait would be. And we eventually just looked at each other and said, you know what? We're going back to the hotel. We're done. Hotel, pajamas, the leftover pizza from the food hall the last night. I was in bed by 9 reading a book and my husband was watching TV and the kids were quiet and everyone got exactly what they needed. And I feel like that ended up being a blessing in disguise. So don't be afraid to take a night off. Don't be afraid to just hole up in the hotel and give everybody a reset. Brings me to point number 4. A low-key night is not a failed night. There is so much pressure. And I think social media has a lot to answer for on this one, to make every moment of a trip count and to feel perfect and cinematic and to hit all of the highlights. We don't want to waste a single evening. And if you come home without proof of a certain restaurant or a certain experience, well, did the trip even happen? Let me say this as politely and as clearly as possible. Screw that. Some nights, the best thing for everybody is just to go back to the hotel. Order something simple. Let the kids decompress. Let yourself decompress. A reset mid-trip is not a failure. It honestly is maintenance. Remember, we're all human at the end of the day. We don't have unlimited energy. We're not always in a great mood and feel up to doing everything on a moment's notice. And being on vacation can take a lot out of you. There's generally a lot going on, perhaps a lot of sensory overload for the kids. So don't be afraid to take a night off or to feel like you didn't make the most of every moment. Point number 5, proximity doesn't determine meaning. I am itching, and I genuinely mean I cannot wait to take my kids to Europe. I have this vision. I'm working on it. It is going to happen. We have got the passports, but in the meantime, I cannot discount or discredit what we have done within a 2 to 5 hour drive from home. Some of the best trips we've taken have been close. Cities are incredible for culture and energy and food diversity, and small towns are equally incredible for the same reasons. It's just different. One of my favorite things about smaller trips, those kind of 2 to 5 hour drives from home, is that they show your kids the texture and nuance of different places. The places that let you discover a little pocket of something real, something local, something that tastes different from where you come from. So, geography is almost beside the point. The question is really, are we somewhere that has a story? Because if yes, we can find the food, and the food will lead us to the rest. I've had some of the best Viennese pastries in cafes in Vienna. Equally as memorable for me is a diner in a small mountain town in North Carolina that serves up a big breakfast. They've got grits and the bacon and the biscuits. And, these two places couldn't be any more different. But they both have character and a strong sense of place, and that's all I need. Number 6, notice the small moments and write them down if you have to, because this may be the most important one, but also the easiest one to miss. It's that funny thing that happened at dinner that everyone laughed until they cried about, or the restaurant that you stumbled into that turned out to be the best thing you ate all trip, the look on a kid's face when they've tried something new and loved it. Those are the things that last, not the itinerary or the photo, just the actual moment fully lived. I think travel is one of the places where it's easiest to be present because you're already outside of your normal life. Your routines are interrupted. Your kids are right there with you, and use that. Let that be the thing that it already is. So here I am, back home, working from my kitchen table or in my little office nook while the kids are home with me. I am living on coffee. There are often times where I say, just give it to me like as an IV drip during the day and we'll be good. I am running on the memory of Atlanta and the momentum of a good weekend, even in those hard and trying moments. And here's what I keep coming back to go back to that initial question of, are family trips worth it? They are so worth it. Not because they're perfect. Ours never are. I doubt yours are too. And not because you come home rested. Do we really? No. But because you come home with more shared experience, more inside jokes, more of that invisible thread that runs through a family, and it makes you get a little stronger every time you do something together. Keep planning the trips. They don't have to be far. They don't have to be grand. They just have to be yours. So if this one hit home, share it with a friend who's been on the fence about a family trip, or the one who's in the thick of spring break right now or planning for those big summer vacations. Maybe they need to hear that the chaotic and imperfect version still counts. I promise it does. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time. That's it for today's episode of Home Cooked Stories. If something we talked about stuck with you, send it to someone who needs to hear it. Follow the show so you never miss a conversation. And if you have a minute, leave a rating and a review. It genuinely helps more people find their way to this table. I'll see you next time.